All right, good morning to Knicks Nation. Here we go. Salute to everybody in the chat on the YouTube side and Bleacher Report Facebook as well. CP the Fanchise here with another Knicks Fan TV live with special guest. He is ESPN's front office insider. Our guy Bobby Marks is here. On today's show, we are going to react some more to the blockbuster news of the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks head coaching search, and what lies ahead for the Knicks this offseason from free agency, the salary cap. We'll take a look at it all, man. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. All right, Bobby, good morning, man. How you doing, man?
I'm good. When we scheduled this, it was not after Tip had been let go. It was, I believe, Sunday morning when they had lost.
Yeah.
So I think the original intent was we were just going to talk about the offseason here, but certainly on I don't even know what time it was, 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. Certainly things turned a little bit here.
Yeah, never a dull moment in the Knicks first, man. We were planning to go over some cap sheets, go through the spreadsheets, talk about some vet minimum signings, and there you go, blockbuster news. What was your reaction when you heard it?
Not surprised like Luka getting traded, but certainly surprised. I would say surprised just based on, listen, your best player came out on after the game, right, and vouched for him publicly. About coming back, as far as but when you kind of start reading the tea leaves, and Ian Begley has done he's terrific.
Great job.
Ian tipped his all off the other night. It's like, well, he wasn't like, and you read through, and then when you have the owner involved in exit meetings, which rarely ever happens, that does not happen. You start to see where the decision goes. I didn't really write about Tibbs in their offseason article, but I did write in there when we're talking about the bench. And that the one thing that I thought New York was going to have a hard time with was convincing players to take less money in free agency if there wasn't a defined role. And the defined role was like, how do you believe that you're going to get minutes when there were no minutes this year? Right. Like when you look at how underused the bench was during the course of the year. And if you're a player that's going there to play 20 minutes, it might sound great on paper, but maybe the reality is not. And I thought that was something that New York would struggle with this offseason here. So listen, I looked it up yesterday. I've been part of 7 coaching firings during my 20 years with the Nets, New Jersey / Brooklyn. I said, listen, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, because I think you do have to be careful. I just go back to 2013 when PJ Carlissimo had been let go, and PJ was 34-19, and we lost in the first round to Chicago. And it was disheartening how we lost in 7 games. And what happens sometimes, CP, is when you're in the front office, you have a belief that your roster is a lot better than how the season ended. Right. Like whether you believe you're a finals team or you're a conference finals team, and that, whether it be that there's a shelf life from a coaching standpoint, some organizations look at that differently. There's a belief sometimes that you feel like this person can only get you certain, so far. I do think it's interesting because this roster hasn't been together very long. Certainly Jalen and, and Josh, but when you look at OG last December, Mikhail in the summer, and then Carl right before training camp, it's not like Cleveland where you've been there like 4 years and you're like, man, we can get through the conference. There wasn't like a 5-year, we just hit the limit and now we've got to tear it down and stuff like that. We're going in a different direction of the coach. So definitely surprising because I did think, listen, they're going to be one of the favorites next year in the East because of maybe what happens in Boston or Milwaukee or some of these other teams, and you basically kind of took the safe approach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You could have listen. You could have just went, "Hey, we're going to keep this core together. We're going to just tweak the bench, and then we're going to roll in next year as probably a top three projected seed here."
Mhm.
They didn't take that route, and now they're looking for their next head coach.
So as a former executive, with the Nets, and as you said, Ian Begley did a great job of covering this, but he also mentioned the fact that this was more of a Rose decision than a Dolan-driven decision, even though Dolan was in the exit meetings. So, like, in the mindset of an executive, is your thinking here that, hey, the next guy should be able to take us to the next level, and maybe we were capped with Tibbs?
You have to. I mean, that's have to be the thinking of it here. It's almost like you kind of pay a little bit of a penalty based how far you go in the playoffs because the pool of people who are waiting for you is maybe a little bit less limited. I mean, this wasn't a big summer of turnover head coaching wise here, but
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, and we all have a job to do, and we report and we analyze and stuff like that. But there's nobody who knows it better than Leon as far as the pulse of that organization. You probably dealt with a little bit of fool's gold in the Boston series, the
Mm-hmm.
ability to come back in game 1 and 2, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like what it like you lose both those games, and then you're probably losing in the second round. And we're
Yeah.
probably having this discussion 2 weeks ago here. So you do have a pulse of the locker room, the pulse of the impact, the input from a player perspective here. You would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation here when you had the parade of your seven best players come in and kind of give their thoughts on everything here. But there is an expectation whenever you make a coaching change and you get to a conference finals, like there's like an expectation you are going to get back there at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then it's going to be kind of come back. It's going to come back to the front office as far as the change you make. Coaching changes. It's funny and I'm sure like you read the comments.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote the Knicks article and we did a offseason video, like if we did a poll of New York, they would have probably voted. They would have like voted Tibbs out, right? If
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
relied on
Definitely.
like, listen, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality
Definitely.
of it, and I get it. And that's the beauty of becoming a fan, being a fan and everything like that. I would just say like coaching changes are sometimes disruptive, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
look what Phoenix has gone like through it and through
Yeah.
it, and they're going to hire another coach here that you basically have. It's disruptive because like the person coming in is basically going to install something different than maybe what was here already. But it also could be the beauty of it because that might be there's no CBA, there's no cap on when you go out, and there's no apron as far as who that next head coach is going to be, and that
Mm-hmm.
might be your biggest offseason addition.
It is. Like I wasn't shocked in terms of Jalen endorsing him right after the game 6 because
Yeah,
that's just not his
yeah.
MO.
What's he going to say?
What is he going to say, right? And he's not one of those players that's going to leave
Yeah,
those cryptic messages and like LeBron or somebody else would do. So I wasn't really surprised. Now the exit interviews is something different because clearly he did not get the vote of confidence from these players. Like, word I got was there was an issue with the rules. We saw all year where the breakdowns defensively, breakdowns offensively. I'm not sure how much stock I take into the friction in the huddles and the players only meetings. Like how much of that is an indictment on the coach or versus like normal, operations. But clearly he didn't have their vote of confidence in these exit meetings.
yeah. I know it's been right. I think Fred Katz wrote about the player only meetings and stuff like that. I think player only meetings can kind of only get you so far. Like during the season, certainly when you're not playing well, playoffs are a different animal based on circumstances here, and certainly when you lost in Game 5 in Boston and got your doors blown off, like I mean that requires to basically like, listen, our season is basically this is where we are
Mm-hmm.
here. But I will say that if the players went in that exit meeting and gave glowing endorsements, and I'm not saying like all of them, but the majority of them there, I would say that there was probably the chance that Tibbs is probably still the coach here. So, listen, it's a joint decision by the front office. Certainly, the owner has to sign off, and I'm not I'm not saying this is a James Dolan decision because
Mm-hmm.
like I went back and you watched it, when he was on with Jalen and
The
Josh.
roommates, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it was great. Like it was really like I wish like that's my only critique of the Knicks is like I just wish they would be just out and open more.
Mm,
Like that's
mm,
the only like we're not and I like Leon. Leon's a terrific guy.
mm-hmm.
Like I wish like they were just out and that's the style. I wish they like it's like Stephen A went crazy yesterday and he
Yeah.
got a point. Like I'm not going to start calling people cowards and
Mm,
stuff, but I
mm,
would say this like because in the reality they don't need to because at the end of the day you're still going to get 20,000 people at
right,
MSG in
right.
October and you're still going to have people walking down 33rd and 8th with a Knicks jersey on our
Yeah.
hat and stuff, but I do wish that there was more of that that openness as far as
Mm,
like okay, this is why we did it, this is where we're going.
mm,
You don't have to they don't have to give away the top secret information and stuff like
mm.
that, but just being more open and everything
Open.
like that. But
Yeah.
it's going to be it will be interesting as far as who they hire, and the list of or the names that are being talked
Mm-hmm.
about. The former coaches this year, whether it be Mike Brown,
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Jenkins from Memphis, Michael Malone, of course,
Mm-hmm.
in Denver. Listen, they all got fired during the year. Some, I like all three of them. There's a reason why their teams went in a different direction, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's challenging if you're going to go get a young assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you better make sure you got that
Mm-hmm.
right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
college coaches. Listen, I've heard Danny Hurley's name.
Yeah.
Like that, like, and I think he's a heck of a college coach. This is a different
Mm-hmm.
animal,
This
man.
is different
Like,
beast. Different beast. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is a different beast
Yeah.
as far as 82 games of grind. Like
Right.
that stuff that you do on the sidelines in the Big East tournament,
Yeah.
that ain't working
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I don't.
Like,
Not in
that-
New York. Not
No,
in New
no,
York.
no, no,
No.
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 That no. So it'll be interesting as far as going through the process because when Leon got hired and he got hired right before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
there was a relationship with Tibbs prior. Like that's the reality. Like this league is built on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I am interested to see what direction New York goes because you're walking into a championship. With some addition, this is a high level team
Mm-hmm.
with expectations that you're
Mm-hmm.
walking into.
So just your opinion for this team and where they're going with the championship caliber expectations. Would you lean towards more of a veteran versus a young upstart? I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of looking for that young, like a Johnny Bryant, who has the experience. Sure. Young, but maybe a bit more innovative in the mind and not necessarily a retread.
Yeah, it's, listen, I think Michael Malone is a terrific head coach, but the reality is you might run into the same problems that Denver did, right?
Yeah,
like, as far as like, I think what you want is someone who's going to be here not just for 3 years, like the life of kind of what the cycle of what this current roster might be, but someone who's going to be here, like, Spo in Miami has been there forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's certainly he's been through different iterations there. But I do think, like, if I'm like Jordy Fernandez, what he did in Brooklyn last year, like people sometimes get scared of hiring that assistant coach because they haven't been through the process here. I think sometimes it's refreshing when they have different ideas and they haven't been through the grind already. And if you put a competent staff around them and you let these guys play a little more freely, I would say, and you're innovative, I'm all for going Will Hardy, who was in Boston and now is in Utah. Like they went, I mean, that's a different direction because they basically broke up that roster in Utah. But I think there is a lot of well-established young assistant coaches out there that would come in and do a really good job. They just have to realize, like, this is what we're signing up for. When Ime Udoka went to Boston, that was his first go at it. He had been in Brooklyn with Durant and Kyrie in that group here. So I do think if you're going to go that route, I think it's, you're plucking a young assistant off a team that's been through this, right? Whether it be in Cleveland or some other situations.
Have you heard anything like in your circles in terms of Johnny Bryant, like reputation, philosophy? Have you heard anything?
I think he's terrific. I really do. I mean, I think I look at where he was in Utah, certainly on Quinn's staff there. Certainly, there was some time spent in New York, right? Yeah, having been here, as far as a familiarity with, with at least, from the city standpoint, from the expectations. I mean, you look at the success they had in Cleveland, certainly here. I think he would be really good here. I think it's interesting. That's the other thing too. It's like there's a timing element all through all of this too, because he is one of two people that is in the final,
Phoenix.
the final running Phoenix, right? So then you're thinking like you go back and you kind of read through the tea leaves. You're like, well, maybe we can't when you're going through this process in New York. Maybe we can't let this linger anymore because that's going to be our guy, and we can't afford to lose him to another team.
Yeah, and Phoenix is according to the latest report that they're choosing between him and Chris Ott. So we'll see what happens there, and was the timing of this coinciding with them potentially trying to get Johnny Bryant back here. So very interesting to see. CP the Fanchise, Bobby Marks in the building. Salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to all of our Fanchise channel members in the chat as well on this early morning edition of Knicks Fan TV. If you guys have questions for Bobby, you want to talk to him, call us up on the KFTV Discord. In relation to the second apron, Denver was a second apron team. They're in second apron, risk, and Mike Malone is gone. Memphis's sheet was a little bit cleaner, but hey, Taylor Jenkins gone. What do you think is there any correlation between second apron roster building and these what seem to be quicker decisions on coaches or shorter ropes here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're financially challenged and you're pressed against the second apron, you're reliant more on certainly your starters. Listen, the Knicks and Denver, our stats group sent this to me. They are the first two teams since the 86-87 Celtics to average the most points per game among their starters.
86-87.
Yes.
Wow.
So when you look at it, there's two ways to look at it. Your benches, you don't trust your bench, right? Or or maybe you haven't done a good enough job building your bench, or maybe your players haven't developed as much. Denver was an interesting situation because they kind of, post Bruce Brown and certainly post KCP, Jeff Green also, like they were heavily reliant on draft picks. Like that bench was built with former draft picks. And if you're not there as far as from a comfortability standpoint, as far as playing them certain significant rotational minutes, that is why your starters are going to play a lot of minutes here. I think New York is a little bit different, certainly. And Memphis was different. They had a ton of injuries in Memphis. That was a big thing. Ja in and out of the lineup. They went from a 2 seed to like an 8 seed.
Right.
It's blink of an eye. Mike Brown in Sacramento, certainly different too. I think that was kind of like, listen, Sacramento is Sacramento. That's probably one of the more unstable organizations here. I do think when you are faced, whether it be your first or second apron team, that you are like, you got to draft really well. B, you got to develop really well. Or C, you better find those kind of under the radar type, free agent type players. Like Indiana has been able to do it because Halliburton and Siakam make two max players, and they basically have pegged everyone a certain salary slot. You could do Aaron Nesmith because you flipped him for Malcolm Brogdon. You can do Miles Turner at $20 million. Miles Turner is probably going to be more expensive. Like TJ McConnell was a under the radar free agent. Matherin's a draft pick. The rest, Obi, of course, as they traded for and that. So like there's different ways as far as how you do it when you're top heavy in salary. When you have, I think I put like 92% of your salary is tied up in 6 players. It's a lot of pressure on your front office and your personnel department to go out and find those players you got to find those players, and then hopefully you can retain them.
Yeah. And again, that's why I wonder, for the Knicks' sake, we're going to be in Vegas for Summer League. I'm going to be watching Pacome Dadier, man. I got to see.
I said Tim and Tyler Kolek, right? Like, you got to, like, they're not two guys that were picked like 58 and 59. Like when you're
Right.
drafting guys in the first round, and certainly Kolek early in the second round, like those guys got to play. Like they you got to expand on playing more than just 400 regular season minutes this past year.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Their next step, I think, will be vital for this team from a rotation standpoint. But all very, very interesting. Now, you had mentioned a litany of names in terms of potential candidates here. Mark Stein mentioned guys who already have jobs. Jason Kidd, who was part of the initial group that came in prior to Thibodeau in terms of interviews. That was in 2020. Ime Udoka with the Rockets, Jason Kidd with the Mavericks. Hey, even a Hail Mary for Eric Spoelstra in South Beach, even though I think Riley will take that to the grave. What would it take to get one of these guys that are already under contract to bring them here? We haven't seen that in a long time.
No, listen, in reality, we had when I was in Brooklyn, we traded Jason to Milwaukee, and we got 2 seconds back.
Right, right.
I mean, listen, Doc was traded from Boston to the Clippers for I think they got a first back.
Yes.
For him. I think I think Ime in Houston, I would say that's probably going to be a hard no. I think Mark had even said, like, even if they asked, they would. Eric certainly in Miami. Listen, I think Spo's a terrific coach. Jason is interesting. Jason has evolved a lot. Just I had him as a player, had him as a coach. That what we threw him in that 13-14 season was, I don't think anybody can go through that process there. And then you look at Milwaukee and then becoming an assistant and then what he's been able to do in Dallas. I think Jason's a heck of a coach. I really do. And he's got ties to the Northeast and he can deal with like the expectation levels doesn't bother him. It's interesting because of where they are with, roster wise, it's a lottery team, but it's kind of a win now team here. So that would be more of like him having a conversation with Nico, if this is hypothetically what he wanted, him having a conversation with Nico Harrison as far as saying like, this is where I see my, where my preference would be, like almost like any person who, if you're working for a company and you have an opportunity to go work somewhere and you're going to make more money and there's job security and there's different things, it's basically approaching your boss and saying like, hey, and then all they have to do is say no or yes, or like, why don't you go meet with them? But Jason would be interesting as far as, the people that are still under contract.
Yeah. And then, maybe go to Nico and say, hey, man, this Luka thing is way too much for me, man. No disrespect to Cooper Flag, but I got to get back up north.
Hey, you let me out of my contract if I say I'm the one who did this.
Yeah, I'll take the bullets. I'll take the whole bullets for everybody, man. That might be the deal. But then you're thinking it would have to include draft compensation, which the Knicks don't have much.
You got some seconds. You got some seconds. Listen, yeah. The day and age of trading first round picks is becomes a little bit more challenging. I think that's more of a unique situation.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting, man. We'll have to see what happens there. A Hail Mary down to South Beach. We'll see. Chris Quinn has been out there.
Chris is terrific, too.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, he's paid his dues. Really. Really, and has been part of that Miami staff for a long time.
What makes a candidate? Because for a while, even during that 2020 to say like 24, 25 run, Stackhouse was a big name. Yeah. Well, and then all of a sudden now he's just as an assistant. Brian Shaw once upon a time.
How about Sam Cassell?
Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell has been through a lot, and it seems like he's kind of been, at the front step and has never kind of come through and has won championships from his playing days and as an assistant coach and has got that pedigree there. It's just an interesting process having gone through it. Like you kind of like you bring them in and like a lot of it's, style of play, how they see it, roster construction, their wish list of players that they see fit in. It's sometimes it's like going through the draft, like sometimes it's just like a feel like this is the right guy that we see. This is how his personality fits with our group. Maybe he's a little bit more laid back. Maybe he fits in with, the personality of some of our players on our roster here. But as I said, like you go through it, and the hard part is you think you know it right, and then you get to training camp, and you're like, God, like, geez, I hope
Mm.
it, and then you start playing, and then there's a newness to it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then it's the ability to deal with adversity. And a lot of it is the ability to deal with players.
$1 million athletes.
So yeah, listen, you have the ability to have everyone like each other, right?
Mm.
That's what's not like when rosters are put together, and we label teams winners and all that stuff, and teams that could win the East or the West. There's the human dynamic to it all,
Yeah.
as far as guys actually liking each other and trusting each other and willing to, deal with adversity together.
Yeah, great points. Great points, and often overlooked when we speak on this. So I pulled up the offseason roster outlook that you had created here. So if you could just take us through, where things stand from a salary cap standpoint and aprons and how the Knicks are looking
Yeah.
as they enter
Well,
into
I
free
think the
agency.
most important thing is the apron resets come July 1st, right? So we basically were dancing around the second apron right after the Bridges trade last summer, and we were basically counting pennies as far as when they can sign guys and all that stuff. The apron rules reset here come July 1. Where you are is, as I said, you have your seven main guys back under contract next year when your starters, and then if you could put Mitch in there, but Mitch, Josh, certainly Deuce with that group. You've got a late second round pick. You've got one tradable pick, which is that Wizards pick that's protected in 26. You can trade that if you want. You've got a bunch of swap rights too, if that ever comes into play. The big thing for you is you got to figure out what you're going to do with McHale. I think that's going to be like the main thing. We wrote about players are extension eligible. He was one of the guys we wrote about earlier in the week. He's eligible. They can negotiate the first day after the NBA Finals is over. That's a rule that was put in last year. 4 for 156. That's the max. Now you have to make a decision if you want to pay probably your fourth best player $40 million per year. You can do it. Now listen, the Jalen extension has paved the way for you to be under the apron next year and give McHale an extension. Like that's the reality of it. Now, if you do it, then you're going to have Jalen, Bridges, Cat, and OG. Like you got four guys making like north of like $37-38 million. That's what you have to internalize. I think you can't get caught up with, oh my God, we traded for him, protected first, and other first for him, and we just have to sign him because it would look bad. Like you got to throw it out the window. Picks are gone, right? So that is priority one for you as far as figuring out and where the direction is going to be. There's a lot of teams next year that have cap space. Could he make more in free agency next year? It's hard to see right now. You have to figure out, certainly Mitch is another one because he's going into your last year of his contract too on an expiring. He's another guy that's extension eligible. I think his number is like 4 for like 90, somewhere around there. Is he a priority for you moving forward? Is he a trade chip moving forward? Is it like, there's all these different questions here. Your bench is going to be interesting because you have Landry and Wright and
Payne.
And Payne, Precious, all free agents, right?
Yeah.
So you can filter through your bench. How you do go out and replace them is, you've got the veteran minimum exception. You've got the potential to use the $5.7 million tax mid-level exception. You can sign a player to 2 years. The issue with that is that you use that, then the second apron gets triggered. So, like now it's like we're like, Brock's going to be there with the calculator, like balance money, right? Like it's the whole thing again here. So, and you're going to be pressed up against that. So that basically, as I said, like the apron levels reset, but then they get triggered again based on what you do in the off season here. I think PJ is going to be interesting. He's got a team option. I could see them
Mm-hmm.
declining that option
Mm-hmm.
because you basically would save like $1.5 million of more money
Mm-hmm.
on what his replacement's going to be. But
Mm-hmm.
listen, you've got to, I don't want to say improve the bench, but you've got to
Yeah,
build the bench. You got to
absolutely.
trust the bench, right? You got to trust the bench as
Mm-hmm.
far as where they're going to go, and then of course the trade market, right? Like that's the other thing that will monitor this offseason here. The apron levels get triggered if you take back more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
First apron gets triggered if you aggregate contracts. So if you traded, let's say, Josh and Mikhail for a $35 million player, the second apron level gets triggered, similar to what happened with in the cat trade here. So those are your kind of your options as far as where you're going to go. Are you I call it team continuity, where you're basically bringing it back and then you're kind of relying on improving the bench, or are you going to look at and try to make another blockbuster level deal?
With the taxpayer mid level, which is about
Yeah,
5.7,
5-7.
5.7,
Yeah,
do they have to use all of it?
no,
They don't have
nope.
to use
You
all of it,
split it.
right?
You could sign a guy to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But once you use it, doesn't matter how much the amount is, it gets triggered,
Oh,
Brian.
so even if you use less, you're still triggered at the second apron.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
that's painful. That's
yeah.
painful.
But
Oh
here's
my
the thing.
god.
So here's the thing for you.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the tax ML, which is at 5.7, let's say you want to go sign Al Horford.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his minimum number is like 3.7. So there's not. I know it's a $2 million. There's not like that big
Big
difference. Like
difference.
Tyus Jones, for example, his minimum number is the same, 3.7.
Mm.
So it's like you would that's where you're gonna have to sell, right? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to sell as far as the
Yeah.
ability, as far as from a playing
Yeah,
standpoint.
that's where we got to put Worldwide West in the room and say,
Yeah.
listen, man, we got the Garden, we got the legends. Every
Yep.
Patrick Ewing's back. The Garden's been shaken. We need you to sacrifice to make this happen. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, in that scenario, then, as it relates to guys like like a Dottie, a Kolek,
You need them.
you need them.
Yep. You need them.
Wow. The Precious thing is going to be interesting as well because I do think they need front court depth. He did do them the favor, or they kind of worked with each other last year in terms of getting him the $6 million. The trade clause was waived. I do wonder if they opt to bring him back or let him
It
let
will
him
be
walk
interesting because the hard part is that if you wanted to clear money out and give yourself some buffer, like who's the odd man out, right? Like as
Right.
I said, like when you've got 6 guys making 90% of your salary cap, there's not like a $10 million guy. I mean, certainly a $10 million guy that you can just trade with a second and give yourself some more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it, you're basically trading one of your key guys.
Yeah. On the McCall thing, as you said, 4 years, 156 eligible this off season. And I get what you're saying. Alan Honda mentioned the same thing. Like you can't look at it as the sunk cost fallacy where we acquired him for all these picks.
Yeah.
We have to see this through. But then I'm wondering, like, what's the opportunity cost?
Right.
Like if you're not going to package him in a blockbuster, which
Yeah.
is going to come at the expense of more depth.
Yes.
What are you going to do? It's not like you're going to get all that money back if he
Yeah.
hits free agency and leaves, right? Like,
No, that's the thing. It's like if you let him walk, I'm just gonna pull them up right now. Like if you let's just say like, which never happens really, like you just let a guy leave.
Mhm.
I mean, you still got, 165 million in salary next year. The cap's 170.
right.
So it's not like all of a sudden you get a $25 million. You get more flexibility under the apron and tax and all that stuff, but it's not like you're all of a sudden you can replace him with a 25-30 million dollar player.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, do they almost, do they re-sign him? And hey, if things don't work out, then you have that salary in a trade down the road. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like when you go through this process, and this is something we didn't do in New Jersey and Brooklyn. It's like you have to go through when you're thinking about doing this. Okay, what are the benefits of this trade working, and what happens if if the player doesn't fit? And sometimes teams don't think that way. It's like you think about like the now, right? Until it's kind of too late and everything like that. And I think I'm sure they have the options there as far as, hey, if we needed to go in a different direction, what is that going to look like?
Wow, very, very interesting here. One last on the offseason front, Giannis. There's people who wanna put the tinfoil hats on. Hey, maybe the next coach is tied to Giannis, and can Giannis force his way here? I think that's very low. But what do you think about the whole Giannis?
I think it's challenging. I think it's certainly from I mean, we just talked about draft equity, right? You're kind of in the back of the line as far as what you have to offer. I think listen, I think Giannis is an interesting situation just because he hasn't asked to be traded. I don't know if he's going to ask to be traded because it's not kind of DNA here. Where does Milwaukee see themselves next year without Lillard? It's hard because he makes $54 million, so you're basically, if you're not trading Jalen, which you're not, and you're not going to trade if everyone's saying, well, Cat, like, but everyone has to like condition themselves. Like, you have to think like, what does it do for Milwaukee too, right? Like, it's like we go on. Yesterday, I went on TV and talked about it, and I feel like saying like, well, I want to talk about Milwaukee also, because and then if it's not, then it's not those guys. All right, now we're combining salaries, and now we're triggering the second eight, like like all these different things, whether it be Anunoby and Bridges, and like then you become extremely top heavy. I will say this though. If he ever became available in a deal and he made it known that he wanted to be out, I would say all 29 teams will make a phone call. You have to, right? Like that's just the reality of the situation. Now the question will be is like, what do you have enough to make it to the next round of bidding and everything like that? And I think for New York it becomes a challenge.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. All right, let's go rapid fire calls for Bobby Marks here. Dan from New Jersey. Dan, are you there? Do we have Dan? He might have been here from yesterday. Jaden R on the Discord. Are you there? Jaden R.
Hey, you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I just wanted to make a few points about the whole coaching situation. So, with Tibbs, whether you love him or hate him, whatever, I think a tall tale sign of him not being like a championship caliber coach was how bad we were out of timeouts this last season. It felt like every, like timeout or post timeout possession that we had, we were absolutely horrendous. So I think that's a big thing with Tibbs. And, like with our next coach, I kind of like Johnny Bryant just because, he seems to relate to the players and he's a new age coach and all that. But I mean, let's be honest, whoever Giannis wants, we should hire.
Yeah, right. We were just talking about that, man. We were just talking about that.
I mean, I know like Jason Kidd helped Giannis, like build up into the player he is today. And you guys mentioned Jason Kidd, so I don't know if there's a connection there, but
okay,
that's pretty much all I had to say.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, have a good day.
Yeah, look, one of the things that was noticeable, they were never really all that great with timeouts during Tibbs' stint here, but just a lot of disconnectivity. There was a disconnect there, man. Just guys just not one hand not knowing what the other was doing. And I'm not saying that every team is running perfectly or seamlessly. We'll see in the NBA Finals tomorrow night. Hey, mistakes might be made, but just seemed like all year long, like guys were just looking at each other. Hey, what are you doing? What is this? Didn't seem. I don't know if that was a roster thing, chemistry wise, or that's attributed to the coach. But it was clear they just weren't connected in a lot of ways.
I think Game 1 of the Indiana series. I mean, I don't want to say get them in, but it certainly played a significant role because you showed what you could do in Game 3. You showed what you could do in Game 5. I think losing that game, how it ended, at the last 3 minutes there. I think that was if you're going to observe one thing from that, I think that was certainly a big part of it.
Sure. Dan from New Jersey, do we have you again? Dan, are you there?
Que what?
How you doing, man? Long time, man.
Yeah, long time. Bobby, it's always good to have you on the show. CP, you know me, man. I'm busy with medical school, but I'm always watching from the rafters.
Absolutely, man.
Just like Sting, bro, always watching from the rafters. I'm always around. I'm always tuning in. But Bobby, I actually had a couple of questions to ask you, because I appreciate your perspective on these matters, especially from a front office perspective. A lot of people talk about the New York Knicks' lack of offensive creativity, especially with, having all this talent offensively with McCall and Towns and Brunson. But I think an underrated side of this new coaching search is seeing somebody who could adopt a more modern style of NBA defense. As you saw in the playoffs, the Knicks used to, allow a lot of threes, prioritizing protecting the paint. And you would see that a lot too during the regular season, during these years with Tibbs. What, in your opinion, are some dynamic coaching candidates that you feel could potentially add a new dimension to a more modern defensive scheme that could allow for less threes? And what do you think that would look like?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a good point as far as the adaptability, as far as kind of where we are in this league. I think you certainly saw when the Lakers hired JJ Redick, as far as the way that they went about and how they basically listen. They had certainly a defensive identity, at least post Luka, with that roster. I think what you do is that you study. Certainly Michael Malone is going to be the name we're probably all going to zero in on if you're looking at an established coach, and as far as from a defensive level, as far as at least the year they went through to win a championship here. I think there's been some slippage there, recently and everything like that. I think a lot of it's going to be like the players, how your players, it's one thing to hire a coach who has, this is how he wants to coach, or this is what his principles are. At the end of the day, the players are going to have to, because as I said, you're inheriting so much like from a roster standpoint. The players have to fit what your schemes are going to be, and if they don't fit, then you're going to have to adapt to that. I mean, that's the reality of it. I think certainly offensively, listen, you are a better team when you're probably more balanced and the ball doesn't stick as much. As great as the heroics of Jalen Brunson is down the stretch of these games, and the ability to take over games and stuff like that. Because when the offense stalls, it does become a lot more stagnant. So I think it's when you cast a wide net, or maybe they know who that person is going to be. That's going to be when you bring them in and you bring them on the board, and you're basically going to say, okay, here's our roster. What are you going to do with our roster? How would you use these certain players here defensively in that way?
Yeah. All right. Final call. Zay from Maryland. Zay.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Yeah, I'll keep it short, man. One thing, just about everything. I think the biggest thing with Tibbs being let go was a lot of it is just like, are they on the same page? Is the front office on the same page with the coach? Hey, if we bring in new guys, are you actually going to play them? Are you actually going to see if they can actually, add to what we're building here on the roster? If we need more threes, if we add a 3-point shooter, are you going to play him so that we can get more 3-point shots up instead of the 2-man game that we have going? So, I think that's where a lot of the change for Tibbs was there. I guess my question then, totally, a lot of the clips that I've seen on TV so far, just responding to his firing, there's just been a balance between, was it the roster? Was it the coaching? Did Tibbs actually maximize the potential for this roster? I know a lot of people are saying like, well, he didn't have a bench. Well, he barely played the bench. So I guess I want your feedback on, do you think, just looking at it from like your front office eyes, do you think this was a problem with not maximizing the roster, versus do we need to go back and revamp the roster to get further? Or is it the coaching in general of, like, what's the point of firing the coach? Like, would you do this as well with, would you do this without having your next coach already lined up? That's the other question. And thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man.
I think listen, New York, as we talked about earlier, they don't talk, to the media, but I do think the statement they put out was pretty interesting. Like, they used the word championship. right? Like,
Yeah.
it's our ultimate goal to win, what's our goal to win a championship here. And I think when you have a roster that you believe as a front office can win a championship, you went out and made all these big moves. You didn't make these moves to be a 50-win team and lose in the second round. And, we can say, great, successful season. When you go out and make these deals and you do these trades, and the reality is that you are going to have basically the same roster outside of what you add, in free agency with some of these reserves, that you're looking at it. Okay, if we bring the same roster back, what is the upside if we bring back Tibbs? Are we basically going to be in the same position a year from now, losing to Indiana or Cleveland in the conference finals, and we just cost ourselves a year from going out and hiring another coach? It's similar to what Denver went through when Michael Malone got fired 3 days before the season and David Altman takes over in the interim, is that they looked at it like, we're basically going to waste the playoffs because we don't know what we have. And it's probably going to be the same result here. And they wound up going to the second round here. So I think that's the thinking of it, certainly from a front office perspective here. Now, if you were having a roster that was going to turn over and you were going to have a lot of free agents and cap space and all these different optionality stuff, then it might be a little bit different because you're bringing in a different group of guys. But you never want to get in a position where we get to January 5th and you're 21-21 and you're like, man, we got to make a coaching change. Because basically the guys have tuned them out and we've just kind of, and then you're kicking yourself because you could have done it right after you lost to Indiana. So I do think a lot of that comes into play, because making coaching changes in season, basically you're punting away the season, and that reality of it here. So that's a little bit from a front office, perspective there. And as I said, like these Leon and Wes and the Walt and the group, they've been with this group. Like they're in the practices, they're in, they're living through these playoffs here. And they go out and make a decision. And now as we've said, you've got to figure it out, like who that person is going to be.
Got to figure it out, man. Great session. Definitely appreciate the time here, Bobby. Before we close, you and I will be reconvening in Las Vegas. Well, maybe it's free agency first, but in or coaching hire. But ultimately, we will be convening in Las Vegas for NBA Summer League and Sports Business Classroom. Just give the people a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be working on.
Yeah, I mean, this is year 2 for me. We both worked together last year, and it was a terrific week in Las Vegas for Sports Business Classroom. It's a 1-week immersive. You can go on sportsbusinessclassroom.com to sign up. Basically, you get to pick your own major, whether it be media broadcast, salary cap, scouting, video analytics, and then agent representation here. We just went over the curriculum this week. We've got a lot of new things that we're going to add to the group here, whether it be cap wise or video or scouting or media broadcast group that you're on with Howard Beck and Jay Adonde and Mike Fratello.
We got the czar Mike Fratello.
Yeah,
this year,
like
man.
we went like dream team this year and everything.
Yeah.
Like that. Not that you guys weren't good last year, which you really were, but yeah, it's a great week. It's a great networking week. It's a great resources. We don't discriminate on age. You can be 18 or 17 and 45 years old. You don't have to be in college, and you can go on sportsbusinessclassroom.com and you can read all about it, and you can look at the videos that we did last year.
Yeah, and we sent a couple people from Knicks Fan TV last year, and we have another guy, my guy James Stanzoni, just signed up for the salary cap group. So awesome. You'll meet him down in Vegas in next month.
It's going to be a good week. Really is. It's Summer League in general, as I call it, it's kind of like Disney World on steroids, because the interaction that you get to see people, whether walking on the concourse, there's 2 games going on at the same time. If you're part of our program, you do still get to go to games and everything. You're there the whole week. It's a really good week of if this is what you want to do, or maybe you're want to make a career change and this is you're thinking about trying to get into sports, this gives you certainly a platform.
Yeah, there we go, man. Well, Bobby, once again, thanks again for the time, and we'll catch up, man.
Sounds good. Good talking with you.
Absolutely. All right, that was the great Bobby Marks. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the share button once again, and subscribe to the channel. What you guys think about today's show, man? I thought it was very informative. I thought he brought some great takes from a front office insider standpoint. And hey, as the world turns, New York Knicks edition, man. Want to shout out one of our sponsors of today's show. You guys see it, man. Cash App. Hey, if you guys want to send us a donation, you can send us a donation through Cash App through $Knicks Fan TV. If you guys have not signed up for Cash App yet, hey, Cash App is a great tool to send and receive money from your mobile phone. You can also use your desktop or your laptop. Safe, easy to use, and reliable. We use Cash App here at Knicks Fan TV for a variety of reasons, to pay people, to receive money from our fans and from customers. And so we use it on almost a daily basis. And they're offering a great deal for new customers. Sign up for Cash App today. Use our exclusive code KnicksFanTV. You would go into your profile. Once you create a Cash App profile, you go into your profile and type and enter in the code KnicksFanTV. And then if you send a friend or send us $5, you will get $10 back. Great deal. Limited time only. And that's for new Cash App users. You can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash. Terms and conditions apply, but that's money. And that's Cash App. So salute to our friends at Cash App once again for the support and for sponsoring today's show. Okay. Great show, man. Who we got in the chat? Salute to my Fanchise channel. We got 1,400 people here on the check-in. If you guys are new here, throw a hashtag new in the chat. I'll shout you guys out. But yeah, also on what Bobby was saying, at Sports Business Classroom, they invited me last year to be an instructor on the media and broadcast side. It was a tremendous week. A lot of work for me, just working. But it was a tremendous week, man. Just echoing some of his sentiments. Summer League, there's nothing like it from a networking standpoint. If you're trying to get into the business, not just the NBA, but basketball as a whole, Summer League is where you need to be. It's a who's who. It's a great networking event. You literally see everybody walking through the concourse of the Thomas and Mack Center, the casinos, the hotels. You literally see everybody. And so for those of you that want to break into the business or are in the business and want to build your brand, build your business up, Summer League is definitely where you want to be. And as I said, we've sent people from Knicks Fan TV watching our show, Bobby's appearances here, who signed up for Sports Business Classroom. And on the media and broadcasting side, I got to work with, last year, it was me, Howard Beck, J.A. Adonde, Heidi Mendel. And this year we got the same group, plus the great czar, Mike Fratello. So I'm going to be interested in meeting Mike Fratello. And just from a networking story, it was at Summer League where I met Coach Tom Crean, because we brought him onto the podcasting set at Summer League. They had me supervising the podcast set and our students there, and they were interviewing him. I met him. I said, man, I got to bring you on to KFTV. And before you know it, Coach Tom Crean has been on this show multiple times. So that's just an example of how Summer League is, man. It's a great time, and I hope to see you guys there. And what we're also going to be doing at Summer League, we have our annual Knicks fan meetup for the summer in Las Vegas at Summer League. So that's going to be July 13th. Look out for more details there, but that's going to be a great time as well. Shout out to Avancer Art Group. Welcome to the show, man. He's team #new. Joe Montana says, Joe Montana, shout out to the great one. So the CP, do you think we should try to get Dante again since his trade value is low? I don't see how they can afford Dante, and I also don't see why the Timberwolves would help us get him back. Anthony Edwards was, glowing over the addition of Dante DiVincenzo. I don't think there's any chance. So I wouldn't put my eggs in the Dante basket. Shout out to my 2 cents, leading the number one chatter on the leaderboard right now. He's number 1, Just Do It number 2, and Chuck Buck number 3. I guess they've sent the most chats, the most chat in the chat room right now. This is a new feature on YouTube that I'm looking at. Yeah, I don't see the Giannis stuff. Summer League dates, I believe it's the 11th to the 19th. And the 10th to the 20th. The earlier you go, the better chance you're going to be able to see like the Cooper flags and things of that nature. I went the first year I went was the Zion year, and there was actually an earthquake during the Knicks versus Pelicans game. RJ versus Zion, there was actually an earthquake during that game that stopped the game. And it wasn't Zion who was dunking all over the Knicks that day. That was a legitimate earthquake. It was aftershocks from California. So shout out to everybody that was there that day. CK2K was there. A ton of people that that are part of our network now. That was crazy. I've gone every year since then. The Wemby year was crazy. The media craze when Wemby was there was crazy. They had to build a separate media wing when Wemby was there, and they were having press conferences like this was like a regular season NBA game. Samplaholic, what about Calipari? I don't know, man. I don't really want to go there, man. Unless he's bringing some innovation, some innovative coaches with him. Maybe. Some from Brooklyn, PCP, what do you think about the rumors about Jason Kidd and Ime Udoka? Look, I told JD yesterday, no on Kidd. I'd be open to Kidd. But I'd love to get Udoka. Like, if you're going to ask me who's on my list of guys who have jobs, it'll be Spoelstra 1, Udoka 2. But neither one of those are happening. Fertitta's not letting Udoka get out of there, after the season that he just had. He just brought the Rockets back. You know what I'm saying? He just brought the Rockets back. So, it's going to be interesting. JD's going to be here. I'll be back on with JD at 5 o'clock. We'll go through Ian Begley's latest article. If any more news happens over the course of that time, we will tap in with you guys as well. So, we'll be back for the post-work session. And, hey, we got to talk about it, man. This is crazy time here in the Knicks universe. I call it in the Knicksverse. Shout out to George into the Knicksverse. He's going crazy. My guy Sean Shepard out west going crazy. Look, a lot of you guys that were calling for Tibbs' head, you got your wish. So a lot of you guys are extremely happy here. Look, for me, I was indifferent. Even though by the end of the season, I thought this team needed a new voice. I wasn't going to be pissed that they brought him back, but I did think it was time. 5 years is a long time. 5 years is a long time. And even when he first got here, I said, look, this guy could be a stepping stone coach to an eventual championship contender. And that is the hope at this point, that he will be. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Shout out to Mikey Johnson. Welcome to the Fanchise channel memberships. And And he says he's new in the chat. So everybody at Mikey Johnson and welcome him to the chat. Yeah, the Udoka thing, love him. Hey, back it up. Listen, coach's salary don't come off the salary cap. If Dolan wants to offer him $1 billion, bring him in. But it's a matter of, will he be allowed? And I think conventional wisdom would tell you, why would the Rockets do that? He's a big factor in them getting to where they are. So we'll have to wait and see. Anything's possible. Maybe Jason Kidd goes over to Nico Harris and said, hey, listen, man, I've been through enough with you guys. I don't know what the hell y'all doing over here. Cooper Flag or not, send me to New York. Anything is possible. So we'll just have to wait and see. TM, I see you in the chat. TM, how you feeling? We are here. Somebody asked me the other day, you taking vacation? I said, no time soon. Vacation? What is that? Yeah, it never ends here, man. STG on the Discord. STG, what's up?
What's up? Yeah, so, Bobby touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I was wondering, and I was going to mention it yesterday too, but I think after they hire this new coach, I think it's finally time that Leon addresses the media. I think the time has come because
Did you
it is now.
did you answer that question when we talked a couple days ago? Did you call in? I don't remember.
I did call in, but I called in before that was like a big topic.
Copy.
But I did answer it in like the poll.
Copy.
But I do think that Leon should have an address of the union. That was before Tibbs was let go. Now I think it really needs to happen. But if he does it, I think it should be after the new coach is hired. Then he can answer the questions. But I really don't know what there is to be afraid of. They came off of, at the end of the day, they came off of a conference finals run. And I think he should go up there, back his guys up, and then also just explain, we think Tibbs for everything he's done. We want to introduce X, Y, and Z as the new coach, and we think he can bring us to a championship. Just something to provide us some sort of clarity, and it'd be nice to hear from him. It was coming up on 4 years in September since the last time he's publicly spoke. But yeah, that's all I kind of just wanted to say. I think it's time, and hopefully he does it.
I'm gonna pull up. Let me pull up the statement here, and me and JD are gonna talk about this because it's very interesting that Bobby mentioned this, and because literally right before I started the show, JD called me, and he mentioned this as well in their statement. Yeah, in their statement, JD literally mentioned this right before I got on the show today, right before we started this with Bobby. Our organization is singularly focused on winning a championship for our fans. Both those guys pointed to the importance of that statement, meaning that the coach was in the way. Meaning that they believe this team is capable of better, of more. And they're a coach away. You be the judge. We'll see. STG, your thoughts. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
No, when I first read the statement too, that was definitely like a strong first line. Like if you look at all their other statements that they've ever put out, whether if it was the Julius trade or any of the other major moves, they've never really come out with such a strong front line right there. I mean, that was pretty clear, their intentions. Their other moves, it's always been like, we would like to think X, Y, and Z first. But no, here they've pretty much told us we want to win a championship. We don't think we can do it with him. Obviously, like I said yesterday on the show, I don't 100% agree with it. I think there's also larger issues at hand with roster construction. But I think once they get this new coach, and I think then that'll be the next set of questions. It's like, well, now where do we go from here in terms of the roster?
Copy that. Okay. Yeah. All right, we'll talk later, man. Good call, man. Rate that call in the chat. Our guy STG Nick says he wants to hear from Leon. Leon, the people want to hear from you. If anybody's watching, Brock, I know you be watching. Hey, they said the people want a message from Leon. If you guys want us to set it up, we'll set it up here in the number one show for the fans by the fans. We keep it fair and balanced here. We'll set it up. Let me know. Will Latimer, salute to Will down in the ATL. Where's everybody checking in from, man? Throw your cities, throw your state, throw your countries in the chat. Let me know where you guys are checking in from. Yeah, very interesting stuff there, man. Okay, let's see here. Who's just texting me here? Will you be a guest on the Ty Butler show tonight, 8 p.m.? Yeah, that should work. 8 p.m. Okay. Yeah, I did Fox 5 yesterday, man. I put it up on the channel. Check that out, man. Gave him the half suit special right after this show. Gave him the half suit special, man. Switch the vibes up and everything. So yeah, it's that time of year, man. That time of year. Okay, what else we got here, man? Speaking of not sleeping, somebody said, yeah, you're not sleeping right now in the offseason. Well, listen, when I do get a chance to sleep, I do sleep on my Bear mattress. Go to bearmattress.com. Use our code KFTV for 40% off site-wide. That is the biggest discount that you will get exclusively for Knicks Fan TV viewers. And one of the best things about Bear Mattress is they pair you up with the mattress that is best for you, and that is based on the survey that you fill out. So all you do is fill out their survey based on your sleeping style, your lifestyle, how you sleep on your back and your side, so on and so forth, and then they'll pair you up with a bed. So once I filled out my survey, they sent me the Elite Hybrid mattress on the money. Definitely love it. I'm getting, I try to get my 8 hours, but even if I can't, I still get into my deep sleep, REM sleep, and get it in. Almost 4,000 reviews on the Elite Hybrid mattress and 4.5 stars. You got the Star Hybrid, all their beds are pretty much 4.5 stars. Also industry recognized by CNET, Good Housekeeping, and Forbes magazine. So shout out to our guys at Bear Mattress. Go to bearmattress.com. Use our code KFTV for 40% off site-wide. Okay. All right. Cahokian on the Discord. Go ahead and unmute your mic. Cahokian.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. What's your name? Where are you calling in from?
Name's Yilmaz, calling from St. Louis. It's my first time. I was a Tibbs fan, Tom Thibodeau fan, before I was a Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I say, take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But I think it's a huge mistake. And the reason is I think we're taking the culture for granted. I don't think the X's and O's are the problem. I think the issue is getting the players to buy into what you're trying to do. And I think all throughout like the 5 years that he was here, I think Tibbs did that. And I followed his teams in the past, and like when he left the Bulls, they hired someone who was supposed to be an offensive guru. Like they didn't even make the playoffs. They haven't been relevant in 10 years since he left. Minnesota didn't make the playoffs after he left for 3 years until they got Anthony Edwards. And so I think Leon and Wes are doubling down on the 2 trades they made over the summer last year, and then I think those were partially mistakes, and I think they're doubling down on their mistakes. And I'm kind of worried that like it's going to be a championship window that's going to close, because we're going to get a new coach, and we'll be like, if the first year doesn't go well, we'll be like, oh well, let's give him another year, and then before you know it, that this era with Jalen Brunson's over. I'm kind of worried about that, and I think it's a mistake. I know I'm going to get a lot of tomatoes for that.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
There we go. All right. Well, hey, man, not for me to judge. It's the good people of the chat. Rate that call in the chat. 1 being trash, 5 being facts. STG Nick said the same thing yesterday. He says it's Leon and Wes doubling back on their mistakes. What do you guys think, man? You guys be the judge, man. This is your show, #1 show for the fans, by the fans. I appreciate Cahokian for, standing on his square, man. I appreciate that. While a lot of people are for this, he said, nah, not so fast. Shout out to Amoris Gutierrez repping the DR. Salute to you. YO, Joe Montana, but he's in Tampa right now enjoying the good sun. It's a beautiful day here in New York as well, man. I'm probably take the bike out in a little bit. DJ Edsy checking in, our friends from across the pond. Salute to everybody in the UK. Salute to the Australia fam right now. It's nighttime over there. A salute to them, man. We have you in Australia. Of course, everybody in New York, our LA West Coast crew, California, Florida. Greetings from Jackson, Mississippi. Eric Horn, always in here. Shout out to Eric, Fanchise channel member as well. B Moore, D Cannon, salute to you, B Moore. D Cannon, salute to you. Salute to Eric Goldstein, as usual. Who else we got in here? Mike V11, $20 super chat says, this move stinks of Dolan. He's got an obsession with the 04 Pistons. They fired Carlisle after 03 going to the ECF. We were a joke before Tibbs got here. Gets us to the ECF with a new team. Horrible move. Hope I'm wrong. So Mike V11 is with Cahokian and STG Nick. He's with him. I'm open to it, man. I'm open to it. That's it. SDG, the leaked cities and statement jerseys, was it just the shorts that leaked? Or is the top of the jersey available as well? Somebody send me a link. We got to get up to speed. Somebody get me up to speed here, man. Here's JD trolling. Told you I was on Fox 5 at the half suit special. Here's JD. Shout out to JD, man. Yeah, that was me yesterday, right after KFTV. So shout out to JD, man.
Tonight,
yeah, this is. I won't play the whole thing, but yeah, this is right after the hysteria on KFTV.
In the Eastern Conference Finals to the Indiana Pacers, despite making their deepest playoff run. CP, obviously,
there we go.
We can tell by all the memorabilia behind.
Shout out to the hosts, and they brought me in on somebody said the music sounded like I was a war correspondent. It was crazy. Even when they played it for me in the backdrop, I said, "Oh my God, is this my segment or no?" Here we go. Listen to this.
We're getting into the debrief tonight. The Knicks firing head coach Tom Thibodeau. The decision comes just days after the team.
It sounded like a world news, crazy event going on. Nah, just Tibbs. Just another event going on in the Knicks verse. We got to bring the franchise in to talk about it. They almost call me franchise. Put some respect to my name. So, yeah, just having some fun with it. I know some of you guys are on the grind. If you guys are at work right now, throw a hashtag grind in the chat. Once again, shout out to Bobby Marks for coming through, man. Shout out to Bobby. Yeah, I thought this was like, I heard, because what happened was, a lot of times when we do like the news hits, it'll be via Zoom, like how I usually do, and then, you see them in the set and you just banter back and forth. But for some reason with Fox, the situation, the setup that they had, I couldn't see them. I can only hear them. So when I'm hearing that music, I'm like, wait, because they told me, like, yeah, you're coming on at 6:30. So when I hear that music, I'm like, did something happen? What's going on? What's going on in the world? We going to war? And they said, nah, it's just, we got to bring you in, man. Monumental Knicks news here. So I say, hey, man, I just, got to do what I got to do, man. Throw the cape on like Captain Clutch and get it going. You know what I mean? Throw the cape on and get it going. All right, couple more before we wrap, and then we'll come back at 5 o'clock. Pops the Legend, you up next. How you doing, guy?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. It's your show. How you doing?
I don't know. It's your show, CP. It's just an honor and privilege to actually be able to call in from time to time.
Yes. Good to hear from you.
So, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Now that I had a whole day to digest the news, and you know that this is something that I've been calling for as well because of everything that the mishaps with Tibbs. But again, I appreciate everything that he's done and the legacy that he's going to leave behind. But I think, and I hope I see it with whatever coach comes in, but I believe with the talent that we have, there should be some games that we're scoring 130 points just on ball movement alone. And this is what I mean by it. If you look at every shot the Knicks took throughout the playoffs and throughout the regular season, most of them were contested. So it shows the elite offense that these players have, that with no ball movement and contested shots, they're still scoring 100 points a game. So can you imagine if they get at least 2, 3, 4, 5 wide open looks from the 3-point to take advantage of OG and Bridges corner threes, or OG having some screens and cutting to the basket and getting wide open dunks like they do to the Knicks every game?
Yeah.
I think that you're going to see what Leon Rose envisioned when he put this team together. He was going to sacrifice defense, but I think he expected a more explosive offense. What do you think, CP?
Well, they certainly had it at times. The cutting was a lot better, especially early in the season. I mean, they were the number 3 offense in the league, and that's behind OKC, behind Cleveland. So they were there. What happened after like January 1st? I don't know. Was it fatigue? Was it, just, them settling? I don't know. It's hard to really say, but it kind of dipped. It did dip. And then in the playoffs, again, it just seemed like everything was a struggle offensively. Yes, they did come up against playoff-style defense and a lot more pressure, and Detroit defense was good. Celtics defense always good, and the Pacers defense was improved, but nothing came easy for them in any of these games, and I think that was part of the issue. So appreciate the call, though, man.
Thank you, CP. Have a great one.
You too, man. Pops the Legend on the Discord. I got a chance to meet Pops at the KFTV watch party as well. Shout out to Pops, man. He's a good guy. Definitely a good guy. Speaking of Pops, did anybody get their Pops a Father's Day gift yet? Well, if not, I highly recommend getting him a KFTV dad hat. Nothing says Happy Father's Day to Dad than representing for the number 1 show for the fans, by the fans, with your Pops, man. And this is new in store at KnicksFanTV.com. We got the KFTV dad hat, highly in demand. Now this picture's a little bit distorted. The back of the hat ain't that wide. It is a standard dad hat, but I'm just showing you the back to show you it's got the adjustable strap. So we have the dad hats in store. And then what we paired it with is we got the Once a Knick, Always a Knick 8x10 print, this time with a frame. The 18x24 doesn't come with a frame because that would be kind of costly shipping-wise. But we do have these packaged in an 8x10 frame. So you can get the full package for $75 on the Knicks Fan TV store. It's ready to go. We have everything in stock ready to ship, so it'll get to you in time for Father's Day. You can also get them individually, so whatever you want to do. But we got the prints in an 8x10 frame, or you got other stuff here. You got the 18x24 print. These are beautiful here. These are beautiful pieces here where you can frame it yourself, throw it in your fan cave, what have you. And then you also got the Once a Knick, Always a Knick t-shirts. And we not only have them in blue, but we got them in black now, too. A lot of you guys like the black versions of the KFTV merch. So we got the Once a Knick, Always a Knick t-shirts in blue. Wasn't pretty, but it was gritty. We got a lot of stuff in store. So whatever you guys want for Dad, we got it in store. We got it in stock, and we ready to ship, man. KnicksFanTV.com, one-stop shop, and take care, Dad. We ship worldwide as well, man. So make sure you guys get it in. All right, Allianz, last call of the day. Allianz, go ahead and mute your mic.
Yo, CP, what's up, man? I like that Father's Day stuff, man. That's really nice. So
Appreciate it, man.
Any pops out there, man, that's a really dope thing to get, for a hardcore Knicks fan, So
hey,
if pops is around, you should get that.
I hope my son buys it for me.
Yeah, right. You deserve it, right? Why not, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, man, we spoke about it the other day, right? Those issues, and it was crazy. I think, we kind of were hovering over the right idea, like hovering over the target as to why Tibbs had to go. So, it happened. I think, people just need to stay on course, right? Leon, it took a lot for him to make that decision. Obviously, it was a business decision. There's a personal relationship that goes back decades, right? Family ties, but you got to make a business decision, right? You see the writing on the wall. You see that the fan base is pointing out these issues. You're not going to fool them. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he knew that if I'm stuck with this roster, then I have to change the coach, or if I'm going to maintain the core, then I still need to change the coach. So, we hovered over the target. We spoke about it.
Yeah.
So I guess they kind of hurt us too, in a way. I really do.
Yeah. Oh, they watch it. They definitely watch.
Because if they don't, we have a voice too, and what happened last time. Remember when there was going to be a walkout? Remember, they know that we don't play. We do have a voice, and you've given us that voice too. So I think that's super important. So I just want to end it with, I think Johnny Bryant could be definitely a good candidate.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be against it, but I'm also interested in seeing what Sam Cassell could bring to the table.
Yeah,
I think
he's
been around for so long. Yeah. What do you think of that? What do you think of Cassell?
Absolutely. I want to bring him in. I'd like a young upstart, a new mind, fresh mind. That's the point of this. If we're going to go retread, you might as well keep Tibbs. You bring in a Cassell, you give him a strong veteran bench coach, like J.J. Redick did with Scott Brooks. Maybe it's a Johnny Bryant, Mike Brown, or it's a Johnny Bryant, somebody else. And you pair them together. So, yeah, you still have that veteran experience, veteran leadership, but you get the youngster at the helm to relate to the players and have that mind as well.
Oh, yeah. If we had both of them, if we had, say, Bryant and Cassell as this, oh, man, that would be incredible.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to either of them, but I think, Cassell being around for so long, I would still like to see some serious consideration for him. But like I said, I think Bryant might be the front runner, right? The leading guy for the job. My dark horse is gonna sound funny.
Mm-hmm.
I might get killed for it, but my dark horse is gonna be Patrick Ewing.
Oh,
that would be funny to see.
I've never.
I just think it would be funny to see because I'm like, okay, yeah, this is so Knicks. Let's see what they do though. But that's just like a troll move in a way. But I think honestly, in all seriousness, it could be either between Bryant and maybe Cassell.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the call, man. What do you guys think in the chat? Sam Cassell. Allianz brings up Sam Cassell. What do you guys think in the chat? Rate that take in the chat. I've been steadfast against the captain, Patrick Ewing, being the coach of the New York Knicks. One of my favorite players of all time. The origins of my Knicks fandom come from Patrick Ewing. Blood, sweat, and tears. All of that. I don't want him anywhere near the bench. I'm so happy that he's here getting his flowers. Every game I was at during the playoffs, and, because he's so far removed, the ovations for Patrick Ewing get embarrassingly low every year. I'm me and wifey, the only ones we up swinging the towels, going crazy. Patrick, and when I'm at the games. Yeah, man, you got to salute him. That type of pressure, and that will ultimately, most likely, not end well. I don't want that. I don't want that on his legacy, man. I don't want that on his legacy. I want him in the Legends Lounge with Starks and them, have a drink, enjoy the fruits of your labor, and enjoy the flowers. That's all I'll say. What do you guys think, man? All right. Great show. As I said, me and JD will be back at 5 o'clock. We'll take some more calls. We'll parse through some more news, some more rumors, and take some more of your takes. But great show as usual. Thanks again to Bobby Marks. Great show. Everybody watching on the grind. Who do we have here? Salute to Joe Schmo on the grind. Oh, I got super chats. I can't forget the super chats, man. I forgot the other day. Shout out to Collect Records. $20 super chats is just a quick shout out to you and everyone. Long-time watcher, but usually tough for me to make the lives. Wanted to say keep up the great work. Appreciate the support. And hey, however you tune in, whether you're part of the replay gang or the live crew, we appreciate the support, and we know that you guys are tapping in at some point at some time. And if you guys can't tap in with us live, as you know, you can catch us on all podcast platforms. This show will be up on the podcast sphere in just a couple of minutes. So if you can't catch us live, take a break and tune in on audio. And if you guys are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. It'll go a long way. I got Mike V11, Papa Fats, $5 super chat. Said this roster got us past Detroit and Boston. Our success speaks to the talent of on the roster despite Tibbs' coaching inefficiencies. He had to go. Okay. We appreciate it, man. Kept it real. All right, man. We'll see you guys a little bit later. Once again, salute to the replay gang. Remember that the show's available in audio podcast format. See you guys in a little bit. Peace.